Good evening, everyone. Good evening. You are coming in. You are coming in. So come on in. Come on in. I am here busy also trying to send out some links so everyone could be joining us. And as always, we have our very special guest with us. Joining us all the way from Tobago, we have Sister Joy Charles, always signing on early. Must tell her hi. So, welcome again, friends, to I Talk with Pastor. I am your host, Pastor Nicola English. And as always, it is a pleasure to be with you on a Thursday evening. If you're joining us for the very, very first time, I want to say to you, welcome, welcome aboard. Welcome to our family here at I Talk with Pastor, where we have conversations about life and faith. And so tonight we are talking a little bit of life, but we're going to get there. So, you know what we do whenever we come on, you are here. Some of you are joining from all over. I always love to know where you're joining from. I also want to know how are you doing? How is the week been going for you? So, leave me a little message in the chat so that I can see that. Now, this is the point as we come on, we get the opportunity to share. We say, share the link, save a life. Share the link, save a life. So you're now busy trying to get on. I want you to get on your WhatsApp, wherever it is you're hearing this. I want you to share, 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 share. Because I can tell you, we have an important subject tonight. I know most of us like the nice, juicy set of topics, but this is a very, very important topic that you cannot afford to miss. All right. So share the link, save a life. We are on live tonight, and tonight our topic is a mission to save your vision. As I said last week, that the month of January is all about vision. It's all about eyesight. It's just us talking about life through the eyes. Now, last week we dealt with more spiritual eyesight, but today we're going to deal with our physical eyesight. So it is a mission to save your vision. And joining me tonight on set is Dr. Jamie Bristol Smith. And she's come to have a great time to us and to inform us about a lot of things that we need to do. So, all of us, once you can see, but you can see well or not too well, try to send out the link. All right. Um, we're going to be hearing from our expert tonight because I'm not an expert on this. All right. My expertise was last week. So we have the expert on set. And that is what I Talk with Pastor is about. It is about giving opportunities to those who know what they're talking about to talk and to give us heads up about life. So if you just want to say hi to the doc, say hi to the doc. She's going to give you a lot of information. So stay tuned and stay put in. If you know somebody needs this, what do? We share the link and save a life. All right. So welcome, Dr. Smith. Good to have you here on I Talk with Pastor. She's coming all the way from Tobago. How are you, my dear? How's the weather
Hi-
in Tobago?
Hello, Pastor Nusam. Thank you so much for the invitation and for joining our friends online here this evening. It's a pleasure being here. And the weather, I believe, in Tobago was beautiful. I spent the earlier part of the day on Pigeon Point. And
Nice.
so, with a beautiful sun and the aquamarine waters, it was fabulous. Beautiful scenes and colors for my eyes to take in. So, it was a good morning. Um, to our friends and family and all our well wishers who are joining us online. Yes, I am Dr. Jamie Bristol Smith, um, and I'm just here to speak with you and to share a little bit of what I know about a mission to save your vision. Now, this evening's topic is a little tricky in that I'll be touching two very important topics that I know a lot of people ask a lot of questions on, and that is glaucoma and screen time. Now, as the title goes, A Mission to Save Your Vision, both topics do have a way, or both topics can, in fact, cause severe or have very severe complications that can take your vision away. So let me touch something. The first one, glaucoma. Now, glaucoma is a word some persons may hear very often, but many persons don't hear about. Glaucoma is very prevalent in our world, and more so even in our own country, Trinidad and Tobago. And since I've been working here in Tobago, we have seen lots of glaucoma cases. Now, glaucoma is really damage to the optic nerve. What is the optic nerve? Well, I brought a little photo for you, a picture of the eye, which they will put up very briefly here for you. And you will realize that when you look at me and when I look at you, we see each other's eyes. Most of the time, though, what we see to the front of the eye is just that eyelashes and then the white part of our eyes and then the colored part of the eyes, which is either brown or black or blue, depending on your genes, and then the black of the eyes, which most people call the eye baby. Yes, I learned that term when I came over here. That what we call the eye baby is the pupil. But if you look at the diagram below, you realize that if you go through the pupil, there are many other structures right behind the eye. So you'll see the pupil right to the center, like the equator of the eye, and behind we have blood vessels, and then we have these things that is shaping what looks like a dish or a ball. There are several layers to this ball, but the important one that I'll be talking about tonight is that little cream flesh-colored part called the retina, which joins to the back of our eyes to give us the optic nerve. In glaucoma, damage to the optic nerve is what threatens our vision. So glaucoma is really damage, okay, to the optic nerve secondary to high pressures in the eye, which we refer to as IOP, intraocular pressure. Now, you don't have to remember all these great terms, but you have to know one thing about glaucoma. It is responsible for what we call silent blindness, meaning it's not something you will see coming on gradually for most persons. In fact, more often than not, most persons realize they have glaucoma when it's too late, when they realize the vision got so blurred and no amount of glasses or cataract surgery is going to bring back the vision. So glaucoma is something we want persons to be aware of because you won't notice it happening until it's too late. No, you're not going to see blurring today and then it clears up tomorrow. You're not going to see foggy things or things floating about. You're not going to see any sign at all. For some persons, they may or may not get some pain depending on the type of glaucoma, but the type that I'm describing is the silent one. The one where you'll walk around with high pressures in your eyes and you will have no idea about it. And so I can't say, well, if you see this sign and that sign, then come in. No. The advice for glaucoma for everybody that we tell that walks through the clinic is that if it is one, you have a family member, a first-degree family member, who would have been diagnosed with glaucoma, who you know is taking treatment for glaucoma, who you know went blind from glaucoma, then you are at risk for glaucoma and should have your eyes checked regularly. And when we say first-degree relatives, we don't mean your auntie, nanny, cousin, second degree. First-degree cousins will be brothers and sisters, mommy and daddy, or possibly your grandmothers or your mommy and daddy's brothers and sisters, like your aunts and uncles. So those persons very close to you. No, your first degree relative is not your spouse. So when you're saying, well, my husband have it, so maybe I have it. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay? It's brothers, sisters, mother, father, brothers and sisters of your mother and father, possibly your grandparents of your mother or father who would have been affected with glaucoma. So that's one thing. You're at risk if you have first-degree relatives that had glaucoma, taking treatment for glaucoma, or went blind from glaucoma. So it's primarily more genetic.
All right. So let me jump in here, if I may. So for those who are now coming in, and we're talking a mission to save your vision, and you're here zooming in first of all on glaucoma. I'm understanding you to say that you can possibly have glaucoma and don't know.
Oh, definitely.
until it is further along.
Yes, that is it.
In,
S-
right.
So you
So
don't get headaches, you don't get pains, you don't get eye strains. Those are not the symptoms of glaucoma.
so then
Glaucoma. Mhm.
so then does that mean I cannot prevent the glaucoma?
So, unfortunately, that would be correct. What you can prevent is further damage from the glaucoma. Now, you're probably wondering how we diagnose persons with glaucoma.
Yes, yes.
Well, because glaucoma is damage to the optic nerve, the first thing we do is look at the optic nerve. Because glaucoma is also damage to the nerve secondary to high pressures in the eye, the second thing we also assess is the pressures in your eye, which is the IOP. So we have specialized instruments that we use to measure the pressure in the eye, different type of instruments. It could be little puff some people describe when they go to the optometrist,
Yeah.
or it can be when they come to the clinic, you sitting behind this very fancy little thing with goggles on, and we looking into the eye and using our instrument to read it. Or some person will describe us approaching the eye with something that looks like a little pen. But there are
Okay.
different instruments to test the pressure. So we'll test your eye pressure using that. If it goes above a certain number, you're at risk for having damage to the optic nerve because there's a certain range in which our eye pressure should sit in without causing damage to your nerve. And if your pressure is above that, then you're immediately at risk. Then we look at the optic nerve, and there are certain signs that the nerve can show when it's being damaged or if it sustains injury. The shape, how thick it is, how thin it is. And when I say shape, there are certain changes that occur to the nerve with the blood vessels all. We look at all of these things that surround the nerve, and they can tell us, hey, there's something more going on with this nerve than meets the eye.
Yes.
Again, these are signs that can suggest damage to the optic nerve. But what can really diagnose nerve death, because remember, nerves are something so small, is when we send you for a scan. You would have heard the term OCT. So it's a simple scan that goes and actually shows you if there's damage and the degree of damage to the nerve fiber layer, which you have to the back of your eyes.
Well, then,
Using
go
Mhm.
ahead. Well, Doc,
So
I'm
using that
thinking.
using that scan, we can say for certain you have glaucoma. It's either early or
Or,
it's advanced. It's either early or advanced, or you probably don't have any at all. Okay, and we just monitor you based on you being on the risk factor, on your
well, of
risk
course,
factors.
Doc, that means it's only senior people that get glaucoma, right? I mean, young people cannot get glaucoma. Of course not.
So So I would have to say that usually a risk factor for glaucoma would be persons above, well, the older age, persons above 60s, they're about, it can happen a little before, give or take 10 years. But there are persons within the younger age population that have glaucoma. There are persons, babies who can be born with what we call congenital glaucoma, but these
Okay.
things happen while it's in the womb. So when they are born, we see these signs. This is not the glaucoma we're talking about tonight. Then there are some persons, because of their genes, within their first decade, first to second decade, they come with glaucoma. So these are more um, younger age onset glaucoma. Their glaucoma tends to be a little more aggressive. And unfortunately, sometimes these are the patients that we catch on the later end of the spectrum, and we're trying
Yeah.
very hard to save their vision. So um, usually we don't really screen children for glaucoma because many of the screens are not tailored for that age group. But
Mm.
we still can send you for the scans, and we can definitely pick up if there's nerve damage or nerve death, and we would treat you the same way we would treat the elderly or the older population who would have glaucoma, just a little more aggressively. So yes, the younger population can have it. It is not common, it is more rare. Of course, if, like I said, you have a first degree relative with it, if your first degree relatives did have these things like blindness at younger ages rather than older ages, chances are you're at risk for having it at a young age. So it really depends heavily on family history. And so it's something you need to ask your parents. Mommy, You know, your parents seeing, so chances that they don't have it. But mommy, you're not seeing what doctor tell you when you get it checked out. Mommy, did you get it checked out? Mommy, how come grandpa wasn't seeing? What did he had? Mommy, how come granny, how come auntie not seeing? What did he have? When did he stop seeing? If you realize he stopped seeing at an early age, go and get yours checked out at that early age too. You don't want to reach his age and lose your vision too. Okay,
Right.
so ask the questions, ask the relatives, ask the first degree relatives, because that is where your most information is going to come from, and it's one of the more important risk factors. More other risk factors for glaucoma would include also having chronic diseases that are not controlled or not managed, like diabetes and hypertension. So, okay, nobody in your family had it, and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, doc say I have it because they had a screen done, and they realize your nerve is not looking normal. So, if you have chronic diseases, have them controlled, have them managed, have your eyes checked out. If you're worried, you can go by any optometrist and they will run a simple look, and then they will pick up some more subtle signs and then decide to refer you to an ophthalmologist, which is an eye doctor. So don't ever sit on it. Ask the questions. And if you're more concerned, then you of yourself just pick up and go to an optometrist and have them look into your eyes, or write a letter if you're feeling concerned. But more often than not, it's not something to say if the eye scratching you might have, no, you won't get those signs. One of the signs that persons may pick up do, because what glaucoma tends to do is damage the nerve from the periphery and come into the center. So the last part of the vision for them to have problem, it will be the vision directly in front of them. But long before, they were losing vision on the two sides. So person will realize, hey, you stop seeing things from your periphery. If you're driving, you realize you had to turn all the way around to see when you should have just be turning, seeing something pass here, you're no longer seeing it. And so what you end up with is what we call a tunnel vision. You can only see what's directly in front of you. And that is the vision you have right before your entire vision goes dim. We don't want it to reach that far. We don't even want it to reach tunnel. And like I say, that's a very subtle sign most persons won't pick up on. But that is pretty much the one symptom or the one sign that somebody who has glaucoma may pick up on before to come and get checked before they realize it's way too late. But don't wait for it. Ask the questions, check your history, and go and get it checked out.
You know,
Um,
we have a question, and I know you answered it a little bit, but we just
uh-huh.
want to put in the emphasis here. We have a question. It is, what can cause these nerve damage? I mean, what? So you say sometimes the nerve can be dead or damaged. What causes these nerve damage?
So the end game for glaucoma is nerve death. So
Hmm.
that's when the vision goes. So when your nerve die, you stop seeing. Our eyes are light sensitive organs, and so it responds to light. And so it goes through a whole lot of passages or structures from the front and until it hits that nerve way to the back. You see, the nerve is the last structure to leave the eye. And so the nerve takes these signals and take it to the brain, and then we see. When that nerve dies, we stop seeing. Doesn't matter what you do to the other structures. What causes the nerve damage? Well, like I say, high pressures in the eye is usually for glaucoma. Glaucoma is damage to the nerve from high intraocular pressure or high IOP. So it is the high pressure within the eye that puts pressure on the nerve. So it's a sort of compressive effect that is sustained. Of course, there's a lot of other things that goes on a real small cellular level that I won't try to bore you with now, but look at it that way. A high pressure, as the pressure increases, whether it's fluid or air or whatever it is, it begins to compress all the structures around it. And as the pressure expands, the other structures flatten. When these things become compressed, the ability to absorb nutrients, to get rid of waste, to absorb nutrients from blood vessels, everything is compressed. And so the nerve of itself slowly dies. So I hope that simplifies it. But so it's not something went in your eye. It's not it's some bug or poison or something. It's a simple physiological thing that happens within your body. And you're probably wondering what causes the pressure to go up in your eye, and that is something that many scientists are still cannot explain, unfortunately. So we still at the stage where we're just treating the symptom, and we can't say that if you eat something, the pressure will go down, or if you wash your eye with this, it's going to get rid of it. Unfortunately, we have not found any studies to support or back up any of this. So while I'm talking about that, I'm going to put in a plug in. If you're diagnosed with glaucoma, and usually the first line of treatment is giving you eye drops, and if that doesn't work, there are other mechanisms that we may take that may involve surgery ultimately. If you've started on eye drops, please stay with your eye drops. Of course, having a healthy diet, eating foods that are healthy for your eyes, like those bright colored vegetables and fruits. Yeah, if it's brightly colored, yeah, we love it. Okay. And stuff rich in lutein, like the green leafy ones, once you don't have any other contraindicators, eat all of those things, but continue with your eye drops. Okay. You don't want to take a risk in you being the guinea pig to find out if your natural treatment will work over the medical treatment and realize, oh, the vision still went anyhow. Let somebody else be the trial for that, and you take the one that has been tried so far, which is to continue with your drops, keep that eye pressure down, and keep your vision. Okay? So,
Well, okay, so I know we've delved into a lot, and some books are not necessarily, because whenever we think glaucoma, we think that's an old person and so on. But it's important
no.
for us, as Doc is saying, that we need to know our risk factors, and one of that mainly has to do with family history. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
this is I talk with Pastor, and I must plug in here how it is so important our family lineage and
Oh,
what we
very.
are exposed to. And that is why it is important that I take care of my body and you take care of your body, because you want to set a good lineage. All right, you want to have proper health. So whether it's mental, spiritual, physical, that is what is important. That you take care of you so that your next generation will be taken care of. You're the custodian
Yes.
next of the next generation. We have another question here coming in from uh right, Janima Bihari says, can damage to the eye be reversed? Can it be
Hello,
reversed?
hello, Janima Bihari. That
Mm.
happens to be my sister, and I was hoping you didn't plugging any naughty questions. But yes, that's a very good question. Can damage to the eye be reversed? So unfortunately, the short answer is no, it cannot. Damage to the eye from glaucoma is irreversible, which is why we are so aggressive to find persons with it and to treat it as soon as possible. It's not like cataract where it goes blurry, it gets dim, and then we do surgery and it comes back bright as new. No, it's not like that. It's not like trauma or another condition where surgery is going to fix it. If you have glaucoma and it's resistant to drops, and we try you with tablets and then we do surgery, I want you to know that the surgery was not to restore your sight. The surgery was to stop it from getting worse, because what is done is cannot be undone. So we have many persons who would have had glaucoma surgery and they're upset with the doctor. Oh, my vision didn't improve, and we have to take our time to go it over and say this was not to improve your vision. It was to stop it from getting worse. And let me put it in a way you can understand. When glaucoma would have been advanced and the nerve reaches its end, and you go from you think you're seeing, but now all you can see is shadows. I'm talking about just light and dark. And you had the surgery. And they always say, why bother go through this surgery? I done not seen anything to read. I can't make out people's face. And I always tell them, you can always stop seeing light. It could always get worse. It will continue until you stop, until it goes all black. So whatever can be done, it was only to save what we have. So please check it out. Ask the questions. Take care of yourself. Because when you reach by us, we could only work with what you bring to us. We cannot restore what is taken from glaucoma.
All right. Thank you. So what are we saying here, folks, is that when it comes to the glaucoma, even though there may not be any treatment to reverse glaucoma, what you can do is pause the glaucoma. in
We could,
help with yes, go ahead, with early detection,
and
what you
treatment.
can have, and treatment, you can manage the glaucoma, because that is what it's about. So sometimes we think, oh well, then this is it, this is a death sentence, wherever the case. Well, sight, because they say glaucoma is the silent sight thief.
Yes,
um
silent blindness is
because
number one cause.
you do not know. You do not. All you can think about is perhaps a family history. You see something, but regular eye checkups are also important. And I know, Doc, you would have talked about that. Most times this comes later on in life and so on. But we must know we're living in a time where everything just goes all of a sudden. Something happens to you and you're young. Things that used to happen to somebody who's 60 years old and 70 and so on, you're seeing 30, 40-year olds with this. So taking
Hmm.
care of our overall health is
Yes.
very, very important. All right. So uh check out your vision. And that is why important we go to this next section here, where we're talking about screen time and all these things. Doc, I really want you to help me. I mean, help the people. Yes. It
I'll
is.
take it first word.
Yes, yes.
So I'm
uh,
just answer one
yeah,
question that I saw pop up there. If carrot
sure.
juice will help. So carrot juice does it help the vision? Carrot juice does help your vision. No, it's not a cliche. Okay, it goes for all round eye health. Okay, you cannot treat glaucoma with carrot juice though. Okay, but you can improve, not improve, but you can build up your eye power, for want of a better word, or your eye caliber by taking those brightly colored vegetables. If it's orange, you want it, you love it. If it is dark green and leafy, you want it, you love it, you must have it. Okay? Take these things and build up your eye health because it's very important. And for some conditions, when it's gone, it cannot return. So that's one quick plug in there. So another thing I wanted to mention about glaucoma, if it is you had trauma to the eye, you sustain a blow to the eye, you ended up having to be in the hospital. They may or may not have to have done some sort of surgery for you. Of course, so we're talking about car accidents, falls, where the eye sustain injuries, these high impact injuries. Right, you can also be at risk for developing glaucoma at a later age because of some of the changes that can occur in your structures in your eye. So even after you would have gone and had your management and you went back out with your normal vision, you're young, you don't know what changes happen over time, over months, over years, still go and get it checked out. Okay, go and have a little regular eye check. We advise persons have your eye checked every 2 to 3 years for those with glasses, but those who would have risk factors, it's important for you to follow that same rule too. Every 2 to 3 years, go by the optometrist and just give your eyes a check. You catch anything early before it's too late. So screen time. I know it's a very ticklish subject, and you know what? A lot of people think, oh, let the parents tune on because this is really for the little ones, and they want to be able to say, "Doc, say you need to come off the tablet." Okay, so screen time and management for screen time is for everyone, especially since COVID. A lot of persons spend a lot more time on the screens, and rightfully so, because we can communicate, one on one. So we use the screen, and then we realize, hey, we can use screen to teach, we can use screen to communicate, and we've always been using screen to do research and work before, even more so now. But for everyone, screen time must be managed. Okay. Um, in management, I'm going to give you a rough idea of how much screen time each group should have. And then I'm going to give you a very important note with respect to screen time and a very special population. Okay. Now, screen time for the average child. And when I say child, we're talking about persons from 0 to 8 years. I know it seems like a very broad bracket, but many studies say from 0 to 6, 0 to 8, anywhere between 6 and 8. But from 0 to 10, no child should have more than 2 hours of screen time. These children don't have to, and I'm saying from the 0 to 4 age group, they should not be spending no length of time on the screen. Okay, is not necessary. Yes, a couple minutes so to tell granny over abroad or in another part of the planet, universe, high and by. Okay, and probably on and off to engage in a little educational activity on the screen. Okay, but the screen should not be the babysitter, and I'll explain to you why later. So all children between the ages of 0 to 8, it's recommended that they have no more than 2 hours a day. So if you know your child is in school, in that preschool age online, you have to manage that. Okay? Or talk to your school provider about their length of time the child is required to stay in front of the screen. The age group is between 0 to 6 or 8, thereabouts. Okay? But certainly not below 6. Now we're talking about the tweens. That is the age between 9 and about 13, thereabout. They have not changed the recommendations for that age group also, but they have said that we know they would have what we call school time on the screen. So the 2 hour screen time limit is really for their recreation. We know they're going to need to have the screen time for their schooling. That should be managed, and I will tell you how to manage schooling time. For every 2 hours, and we call it the rules of two, for every 2 hours that a child have to spend on the screen, or any person actually, you should take a 2 minutes break looking at something 2 yards and more. So it's not taking a 2 minutes break and then going from the laptop to the phone, or sitting down from the phone and watching the TV. 2 yards is something outside the window, across the street, looking at something distant. And you take a break. Whatever you have to do, it's always best if you try to look at something green. So we're looking at trees. You can look at the sky. Do not look at the sun. Okay? And you take a break and then you get back to the task at hand. Like I said, for that younger age group, the tween age group, hopefully they don't have to spend that length of time in front of a screen even for schooling, because the recommended time for them is still just 2 hours a day. So hopefully their schooling will take about a 30 minutes, hour max, and then that's the schooling. And when they would have had a proper break and they wanna, mommy, I could watch a movie, they get a little 1 hour off for the little 2 episodes of a 30 minutes something, and that's the 2 hours there. All right, for the day. For the teens, they recommend that you can go up to 3 hours a day, and the teens we're looking at 13 to 18. Okay, the 3 hours a day, and that is their screen time for the day. After that, they should be engaged in something else. And then for adults, well, 18 and above, for adults, it's understandable that many of us work, so we know the average time an adult might spend on a screen maybe 11 hours. Okay, but we should take recreational time should not cross 2 hours also. So because you're an adult, if you're not spending 11 hours doing work, that doesn't mean you take it 2 hours of screen time and then you kind of catch up with what you didn't use for work. No, it doesn't. Your recreational screen time should also be 2 hours, but we know your working screen time will be longer. And the same rule of twos apply for adults when they are on screen. So you're at the office and you have this project to do or whatever you're doing, and you're in front of that screen. Mark your time, take a 2 hours break, give your eyes a little break, take a rest, look around. It's just 2 minutes. Tell them you're going to the bathroom, and you walk out to the porch and you look out, you watch your 2 minutes, and you come back in. You get back to the task at hand. This will go a long way in protecting your eye from experiencing what we call eye fatigue, severe dry eyes, and other conditions that affect the surface of your eyes. Okay, and these surface conditions, usually present themselves like your eyes burning, it's tearing a lot, it feels strained or tired, you're getting some eye pain, sometimes to the back, sometimes to the top, you feel like something gritty, sometimes the vision blurs and comes back and blurs, so it is on and off. All these are symptoms of eye strain. Okay, eye strain or eye fatigue, which can be managed with lubrication and taking frequent breaks. Okay, of course, this is not sight threatening, meaning that it won't make you go blind, but it can be pretty expensive when you find yourself having to buy a lot of products to kind of minimize these symptoms, or have you going to the optometrist to get glasses when what you probably needed was just some better screen time management. In particular, I will come to the question just now because the ice cream water. Nicole, if you could just take a note of all the questions because they disappear from me after. In particular, for that age group that I mentioned initially, the 0 to 6 or 0 to 8 age group, screen time has a different effect on their eyes than it does on the adult or the older population. When we are within the womb, our eyes and the rest of our body and our organs are developing. When we are born, more often than not, most of the organs are developed, but the eye is still developing. And this development continues up to even age 2, 3, latest 4. At this stage, screen time for that age population has a very harmful effect. It gives the eye stimulus and the eye becomes a little larger, or it it grows a little faster than the average than it's supposed to. And so the structures in the eye don't line up the way they ought to, because now you have the eye a little longer than it ought to be. And now the child has what we call nearsightedness or myopia, which we call it in the clinical world. So myopia is where the child sees everything pretty clear that is close up, like the screen he was watching for how much years, and cannot make out anything distant. And you're thinking, okay, nothing wrong with that. We'll just get in some glasses and he'll be fine. When children have myopia at that very tender age and their eyes are still developing, it progresses at a very rapid rate, which can cause what we call pathologic myopia. And now their eyes can now succumb to a lot of complications that is sight threatening. So myopia in children, we tend to try to catch it very early and try to manage it as aggressively as possible, because our close off time is actually within that 6 to 7 age group. So if we can catch it early, we can actually reverse it or slow it down, and the child can lead a pretty normal life, okay? And have eyes that wouldn't succumb to many of the complications that happen with persons who have very, what we call, high myopia, okay? So children at that age group are at risk also because they don't say anything. They don't say, "Mommy, I'm not seeing clearly." In fact, at that age group, most of them don't speak very well, okay? And no, they're not going to get eye pain, so they won't come and say their eye is hurting them. But there are certain subtle signs you can see if it is your child is not seeing very clearly from the eyes at a young age and before speaking age. Okay? Yes, no more 2 hours a day. All right. So one, you will notice that the child is sitting very close up to the TV screens. Okay? They're sitting very close up, or you'll realize that when they have to see things very distant, they keep rubbing their eyes. They keep rubbing their eyes, you know. Those are just some very subtle signs you might see from a child that is non-verbal, or a child that is not very that's not speaking very clearly just as yet. Older children, even in primary school, so they're a little older and they're in primary school, and in the first, the second infant, even up to standard one is where their age will be within 6 to 7 and 8. They won't say anything, but you'll realize all of the time they were doing pretty good in school, and all of a sudden their grades drop. And you don't know why the grades drop until you realize they're not seeing well from on the board. And so they're not taking the notes properly, or they can't understand what is going on at school, because while the teacher is teaching from off the board, they can't make out what is being seen. So you're watching at their school performance, you're looking at their position when they have to watch the TV or look at anything distant, okay, for them to be comfortable. All right. And little signs like the constant rubbing in the attempt to kind of clear up the eyes. Usually in our school system, which is very good, we have eye screening for our children from first year, second year into standard one. So sometimes we pick them up. If it is the school that your child is in, don't offer these services that are offered by the government. It's good for you to take the child and have them screen regularly yourself, okay? But you're asking me, how do I know I need to screen my child? Well, usually, like I say, we usually screen all our children. It's at school age. But there are risk factors for having myopia or pathologic myopia in children. One, if you know you, and it's the biggest thing again, family history. So if mommy and daddy wearing glasses and pretty strong or thick glasses, chances are the child is going to have myopia or nearsightedness and may need assistance also. Okay. Another risk factor for myopia: persons who spend a lot of time doing near distant tasks, like being on screens that are just arm's length away from you. So if it is, you spent a lot of time doing that, or your child spent a lot of time doing that, they're at risk for myopia. Children that do not spend sufficient time in the outdoors in the sun. Studies have shown that sun time, or time spent in the outdoors in sunlight, has a protective effect on eyes from myopia. So children who spend most of their time indoors are at high risk for developing myopia. So that's it. That is parental risk factors. Of course, if you spend a lot of screen time, and third, if you did not have much outdoor or sun time. All right. And so those are the three major risk factors for myopia. We already
Right.
spoke about genes. So if you know your child falls within those three brackets, or even one of those brackets, and they're not in the school system where they'll have the screening done often, you take it upon yourself and have the child screen. Because, like I said, as they get older and the myopia progresses, their sight becomes endangered, as they will suffer a lot of different other conditions that come from having these a little large, longer than usual eyes. When it's a little longer than usual, tissues become stretched to their limits. They're at risk for having these tears to the tissues. They're at risk for having the tissues detached from where they ought to be, for having pressures going up, same glaucoma. They're at risk for a lot of different conditions. And you want to protect your child from these conditions, and it's something very simple. One, manage your screen time. Two, for young children especially, on all ages, but particularly for young children, have them have at least, and it's a strange rule of two, at least 2 hours sun time, which shouldn't be difficult, because if they go to a regular school, at least at lunchtime, they're taking sun. They're playing outside. But we
Right.
have many different schooling and different things that goes on now. And often you realize the children saying, I spent break inside. I spent lunchtime inside. Or you don't want your child outside after school. Stay indoors. You don't want them sweaty. Well, if you know your child always on the screen, and you already have risk factors because mommy and daddy wear glasses, you want to protect your little one's eyes too. Let them get their screen time. Let them get their sun time. Take them to the park. Manage your time. 30 minutes is insufficient. So 2 hours
Yeah.
at least per day. Okay, this is not per week, per day. And if they're not getting it at school, let them get it when they come home. Find something outdoor for them to do. It will go a long way to not just preserving their vision, it will save their vision.
That is excellent. I mean, you've said a mouthful on this, but what has really caught my attention is the fact as parents, we're the ones responsible for our children's screen time. We're the one that make the decision. We're the deciding factor. And I don't know, maybe a parent may be asking, asking for a friend, a parent friend, how do you how do you get your child to not be on so much screen time? What would advice would be for a replacement for the screen time for those parents who may find it very difficult to do so?
So it's a very good question. I'm glad that you asked. How do you manage your screen time? Well, if this is going to be something you want for your children, first we advise that you have a family meeting so that both you and the child will understand, hey, we want to put in some changes and we want everybody to be on board with it. It's not that you come in and say, hey, from now on, I don't want you on the screen. You're going to get resistance. This is where you tell the child, listen, things are going on. We want to protect your eyes. Studies have shown that you're at risk now for having myopia or condition that can make things difficult for you when you get older, even while you're young, because they're not comfortable with their glasses when they have to wear it. And another way we treat myopia is with drops. They wouldn't be comfortable with having to put drops in their eyes all the time. So let's see if we could get this thing early or prevent it from happening altogether, and tell them we want to protect your eyes, we want to protect your vision. So let's do something, make it sound inviting to them. But these are the hints that we have. So you have your family meeting, you let them know there are some changes. Then after, you set some boundaries. You tell them, listen here, you only allowed a certain amount of hours, so this is how you want to spend your hours. Do you want to spend it doing this, watching this? Do we put an alarm clock so that you know, so that they monitor it, so that they in control, but you also in control too? And you getting what you want, they getting to see what they want because they want the same thing because they had your meeting. Then they're suggested that you have designated screen-free areas. So you can have your own screen-free areas, but the designated areas are one at dinner time. If you know the child is mealtime, no screens. It's not you're eating and you're watching.
Right.
No screens at dinner time. Two, in the bedroom. Bedroom should be a screen-free area. So no longer sending them to do the work in the bedroom, or you want your own free time, so you send them in the room with the tablet. Bedroom should be a screen-free area. The third screen-free time is really a time and space, and that is 1 hour prior to sleep time. And that is because it has been shown that when you have this amount of stimuli right before bedtime, it makes sleep time more difficult, and it also it impairs the quality of sleep that the child experiences. Okay,
Is
so
that only for children, Doc, or is that all
no,
for
so that
adults?
third one is for
Yeah.
everybody. When you're managing your screen time, we advise adults, everyone, that 1 hour before you know you want to go down or you want to go to your bed, you put away the screens, you put away the phone, and you start, you know, you turn off the TV and you settle down to something that is quiet, that is not a screen, whether it's
And
quiet music or you could read a quiet book. And
I
so we
believe,
still
Doc,
on. Hmm?
if I must add here that another
Uh-huh.
way we can probably help our children too is what we do, because we cannot say, oh, screen time is so bad for you. You're spending too much time on the screen. And we are always on our phones. I mean, we're
That
always
is right.
going
Yeah.
and going and scrolling and messaging. And this is outside of work, period.
Yes, the recreation time.
Yes, and one of the things that I've become very concerned about, I have a 7-year-old, and before you say, okay, this amount of video, you watch this, and that's fine. But then you have now where we have these reels and shorts and everybody's just scrolling like this.
Yeah,
Like
TikTok and
you cannot
Instagram and
you cannot add up the time right there. So, I want to appeal to parents. I want to appeal to all of us that we have to constrain ourselves and protect
yes.
ourselves. So it's not just about protecting the children, but we have to protect our vision and to look at what is it we're doing. How long? I know you mentioned earlier that those 18 and above, that is about 11 hours of screen time, some time of itself. That does not even, does it include the recreational screen time of the two
No,
hours?
so all right.
So
So what I was so what I said the average adult may spend up to 11 hours
yeah.
on screen time, depending on the job that they are. It can be considerably less, but 11 is a maximum. All right.
Right.
What so we can't tell you don't work, but you can manage it with the breaks in between, and your recreation time should not be more than 2 hours. So that is separate from your work hours. But we as adults tend to try to do the two. You're there and you have one window open doing something and another window open, and focus on your task so you finish your job quickly and you're off of that, and then you just have your 2 hours, if and can be less, it should be less, your 2 hours recreational time, and that can be it. But you're very correct in saying that we as adults need to set the example for our children. It can't be every time they come, we're always on the phone, we always running them because we want to finish this, we want to do that. And every time they come in, there's a device in our hand. Okay. So we have to manage our time. We have our things to do. We have our work to do. So we can't stop that. But the effect that it has on their eyes is different from it will have on a fully mature eye. And that's what you want to protect your children from. So do what it takes to protect their eyes, because I can tell you it will cost you a lot of money when the damage is done, and you will now have to go and correct it.
All right, thank you so much, Doc. We have a few more minutes and we want to get into some questions. I don't know if there was another point you wanted to make, but so you can do so, and then we will just get into a few questions as we look to round up for tonight.
One more in managing screen time. You did ask about what the alternatives, and I didn't get to that. So when their screen time is done and they're still awake, it's not yet bedtime or it's not yet time to do something else, another timetable task, you can engage in a lot of things, but you'd have to invest in. So this suggests that we engage in some art. You get some paint, I know you don't want to clean up after, but trust me, the mopping on the floor will be cheaper than what you have to purchase to get for their eyes later on. Okay, always watch the money, and I can tell you, health costs a lot more, especially for children eye care. Oh yes, so you can tell them, let them paint, or you engage in some sort of outdoor, give them a plant, call it the baby, see if you could take care of the baby. So encourage them to water, probably take out the little weeds, give them little gloves, make it fun for them. You know, hide, give them a book, and you hide different clues within the words or a circle, and let them go in the book, find it, read, find it, pictures, anything. You can make a little treasure hunt where they find certain things in their house, or a certain amount of things in the yard. Those treasure hunts where you just get a list and you have 30 minutes to go and find that, or if it's after hours, to find it in their house. And they'll be happy running, finding things to do, blocks, anything. And if it's teenagers, well, puzzles or other things that they can engage in that is not on a screen. Okay. And it improves family bonding, it improves relationships, and more importantly, it protects their eyes. So that's there.
Well, excellent. And that's what we're saying, parents. There must be an alternative, alternatives, and you have to use the alternatives. It therefore means that in order to help our children, we have to invest time. In order to help our own selves, we need to invest time.
Mm-hmm.
I've literally had to say to myself, no, I would not go on the phone now. There's some days that I would delete my Facebook app on the phone just so that I don't have immediate access to it. Because on it and you're like, why am I here? What am I looking for? But that's after the hour though.
Nothing. Nothing at
that's
all.
never before the hour.
Okay.
So making conscious decision and conscious step. And you're not doing, because people say, oh, you try not to have fun, you confine yourself. No, it is a way of protecting ourselves. And that's what our mission is, to save your vision. And your mission ought to be to save your vision also. So we have a quick question that we want to answer from Carla. And Carla is asking, other than allergies, what could cause runny eyes? What can cause your eyes to run all day other than the allergies?
So teary eyes are also one of the signs of dry eyes. Okay. Or tired eyes, but primarily dry eyes. So you don't have the allergies, the eyes not turning red, or it may have, but it's a redness not going away. So dry eyes cause your eyes to what we call tear or tearing. In addition to tearing, you'll have that burning effect, may or may not have it. So these symptoms are part of dry eyes. You may have all, or you may have one or two. So they includes tearing, or the running of the water persistently, a burning sensation, there or not, foreign body sensation where you feel like these little gritty things under your lid sometimes, and you're watching to see if something is in your eye, but it is not. Okay. And intermittent blurring of the vision. The vision looks blurry sometimes. You rub the eyes, it comes back, it may not, or it comes back on its own. All these are signs of dry eyes, and usually we advise persons, one, to take breaks if you're on screen time, but to get lubricants. Sometimes our bodies to produce proper tears don't work as they ought to, and you need a little help. Okay, it's not medication, it's just a lubricant. You just get any artificial tear eye drop in any pharmacy outside, apply them to your eyes 2 to 3 times a day. Try to be consistent for the first 2 weeks before you decide to skip a day here and there once the symptoms diminish. So keep at it until the symptoms improve, and then you can start doing it intermittent throughout the week. So lubrication is the mainstay for something that is tearing, which is not allergies. Of course, allergies will present differently. You may have swelling and so forth. For that, you'll need medication. And for that, you will see your eye doctor, and they will guide you with that, because that's something you want to monitor, because that can threaten your vision if it gets really bad. Okay? So I hope that answers that question. I just wanted to say something to everyone who's listening about eye care. I mean, most persons, I would like to think, is very concerned about being able to see and protecting their vision. So, like the person just asked, if the eye running water, if it's blurry and so forth, if your symptoms are symptoms that come and go on their own, so they come one time and then they disappear in your eye without you doing anything different, but it's bothering you, right? chances are you may have dry eyes, and so you could use the lubrication. But I always tell my patients, if ever you have a symptom that's affecting your vision for more than 24 hours or more, and it's not going away, it's persistent and it's always there, come in immediately and let us take a look at it, and maybe we can do something. You don't want to have that bothering you for too long. But I know nobody wants to have to be going to the doctor every Monday morning. So those things that come and go, particularly just the blurring and the little running water, get the lubricants and see if that helps. But for anything like eye pain that doesn't go after 24 hours, if you have a discharge coming from your eye, you go immediately. Do not wait for 24 hours. If it is you have blurring of your vision that does not improve, or that is there all the time, that is blurring of your vision and is there for more than 24 hours, go get it checked. Of course, if there's loss of vision in the eye, I don't have to tell you get a check. You will find yourself at the hospital. Any
Yes.
loss of vision. Okay? But for those other symptoms, pain not going away, blurring not going away, discharge immediately. Go and get it checked.
Excellent. And which gives me a question that is that I got on WhatsApp. The person would like to know, how often should I go get my eyes checked?
Also, if for persons who have risk factors for eye disease like glaucoma, or like I say, myopia, if you know you had no problems with your eyes before, you're not having any problems now, but you believe you're at risk, then every 2 to 3 years, just go and get it checked. You can go and get it checked by the community optometrist. That is the persons who sell the glasses. Okay. And they can look into your eyes and they will tell you, something not looking too right here, go and let a doctor see it. So they'll give you a referral and they'll send you to the eye clinics, and an ophthalmologist will see you. They may look into your eyes and don't say anything wrong with it and say the eyes look fine, but it look like we could sharpen your vision a little more.
Mm-hmm.
You could decide whether you want the glasses or whether you don't need the glasses. That choice is on you. No harm, no foul. Okay. But if it is they do look into your eyes and they give you reference, I think you should have a doctor see this, then go and get it checked. If there's nothing for the doctor to see, then you'll be like, okay. And just every other 2 to 3 years, you go and get it checked again.
Excellent. Maurice Brackwit would like to know, what causes you to see those tiny balls?
So those tiny balls are what we call floaters. Okay. And floaters are something that there can be different causes to floaters. Okay. But the more common cause would be pretty much age. As we get older, this little jelly structure within our eyes changes its consistency, and so what happens is that the protein strand of the jelly component is what sort of, I want to say solidify, but we tend to see it, and you see it inside of your eye as floaters. Okay, it might look like cobwebs, it might look like little balls, depending on the shape your little protein strands take. Sometimes when you come to us with these concerns, we take a look inside of your eyes and we sometimes see the strands ourselves. We're like, yeah, we've seen it. But what we do is we take a look at the back of the eye to make sure nothing is wrong with that light sensitive organ called the retina. Because sometimes if persons have damage to the retina, like a tear or break, they too can see floaters before the vision is affected. So usually we tend to take a look when people see floaters to make sure nothing harmful is going on. But more often than not, especially at certain ages and above, most everybody is going to see the floaters because that is what happens as we age. We tell our patients it's like having gray hair. Once you get older and you get gray hair, you're going to see floaters. So we don't go inside and wash out the jelly and make your vision floaterless. What happens over time is that your brain suppresses the image and you stop seeing the floaters. And that's about it. That's how God engineered our bodies. So we don't have to do anything about it. For some persons, it may bother, but like I say, for most persons, it doesn't bother them at all. I'm not saying if you see the floaters, say, oh, well, it's fine. Still go get it checked. Once the vision is not affected, it's not an emergency. You won't be seen the next day, or you may. But more often than not, it's just part of aging. And when it is not, getting it checked will make us pick it up and we can deal with it then.
All right, excellent. Now, Roshana would like to know. She says I keep getting sty on my eyelids. I often
Uh,
wash my eyes well. However, it keeps coming back. Also do a lot of studies on the computer. In addition, I'm trying to treat with, call that word for me.
tetracycline hydrochloride.
That's it. And warm compress.
There's
It seems to
antibiotic.
be not working. What should I do?
Right. So for those who don't know what a sty medically is when you have these painful bumps on your lash margins of the eyes, okay? Um
Very
where your
good.
lashes are. So for some persons, it gets painful before it gets bigger. For some persons, it get big before it gets painful. Either ways, it's usually infection. Some persons can have the swelling without the pain, so that means it's not infected, but it's still a blocked gland, okay, which we call a chalazion. And if you find usually when these things come up, so what happens is that the gland that moisturizes and takes care of our lashes and the inner part of our lids, these glands can become blocked. And when they become blocked, obviously the little secretions that they have cause it to swell. And so we see these swellings appearing on our lids, our lash margins, and the inside of our eye, which we see as a lump on the surface of the eye. But it's really to the inside of the lid. When we see these things, usually our bodies can clear them on their own. So it might raise up and over time it goes on its own. It happens often with children. For many persons, though, it does not clear and you have to put a warm compress. Usually that helps it clear. If it doesn't, you may need to have what we may give you some antibiotics and steroids, which help with the swelling and helps with the infection. And sometimes this helps this clear. Any person who has been on treatment for these swellings and it's not going along, then we will have to do a minor surgery on it where we go and we just put a small nick and we clean out the goo and then we patch you up and you're good within 3 days. Okay, so persistent swellings and so forth that hopefully non-painful, but even if they are, if they're there and they're persistent and they're not going away with the treatment you've been on for a month or more, then go back and possibly you may need surgical intervention for the swelling. But usually they should settle with just medical treatment, which is the compress and some drops, maybe tablets.
Okay. Um, Ava would like to know. Well, Rashana wants to know that it's not that painful. It's not painful.
So if it's
Ava,
not painful, it's not a sty. It's probably just a chalazion. Yeah.
okay.
But it's the same treatment, except
Is
the
it
antibiotics.
except the antibiotics?
Yeah.
All right. So Ava wants to know if astigmatism is an early sign of glaucoma, or what is the difference?
Oh, so astigmatism is a good question. So astigmatism is where it usually shows up as blurring. So trust me, it's nothing like glaucoma, which I said you usually don't have symptoms for. When you have blurring of your vision, and this blurring can occur at near distance, it can occur at distance. When you have blurring of your vision, that is caused by these little changes to the front of our eye that we call the cornea. That is astigmatism. Whereas glaucoma affects the nerve, which is to the posterior of your eye, and that is glaucoma. So the two, but is astigmatism an early sign of glaucoma? No, most certainly not. It is not. Okay, astigmatism is different. So if you're wearing glasses and they say you have astigmatism, no, it does not give you glaucoma. Okay,
Right.
two unrelated structures.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us again here at I Talk with Pastor. I can say for this program, I learned a lot. It had me
Okay,
silent,
good.
so that means I was learning. But
That's great.
most of all, I know what is important for each of us here is to protecting our eyes and knowing
Yes.
what you do. You have to be careful. They say that the eyes are the window to the soul. It's not just amount of screen time that you're having, but what are you investing in your eyes? What are you looking at? Is it growing you or is it shrinking
Mhm.
you? Is
It
it
is.
helping you? You know what is it doing for you? Is it helping you to be
Mhm.
better? Is it not? You make choices, make good choices. I remember the other day I was like, I feel to watch a movie, and I was like, I'm gonna watch a movie, and then I was like, no, I'm going to on YouTube and learn something, just
Yeah.
educational. So I had to deliberately make a choice on something that will improve my life. On your mission to save your vision, it is not just your physical eyesight, but it's also your spiritual
Oh,
eyesight.
yes.
And next week, we are going to be going to our emotional vision. Did you know about that? You didn't know about that? Well, you want to
Mm.
be here next week. All right, so you have
Okay.
spiritual vision, physical vision. We're going to our emotional vision. So you
Mm.
must be here. And if you want to thank Doc for coming, let's of course here at I Talk with Pastor. We're always grateful. So say thank you to my guests so that they can come back. All right.
Yes.
Say thank you. So
Thank
join
you
us
very
again.
much, everyone.
Yes,
Thanks for
and of
having
course,
me.
thank you very, very much. Join us again next week, same time, same place, as we discuss another pertinent topic that has to do in these conversations about life and faith. All right, so you can still have the opportunity to share the link, send this out to a friend. Don't be afraid to go on WhatsApp and send this off. Also, for some of you, you're on Facebook watching, but we also have a YouTube page, Nicola English. So you want to go over there and subscribe so that we can continue to share these amazing content so others can understand how to navigate their life's journey. And as always, thank you very much for being such an amazing audience coming out every Thursday evening to listen in and be blessed as we have a great rest of the week. Take care. See you next week. Bye bye.